question, or rather a comment on one of my non-duality videos. There is no self that can choose. Who is it that can choose? It is just happening. This is clear experientially when the illusion of self fully drops. And it's a typical comment. I have in a sense talked about it before, but I still think we can just take it again. There is no self that can choose. Okay? Who chose to post this comment? Who chose to watch my video? Who chose to have a certain reaction to it that made the person feel that it should post a comment? It's just happening. So are you saying it just happened that you woke up in the morning and you turned on YouTube and you watched this particular video and you decided to post this comment? Because if it did, I would say, okay, but then I don't really need to comment on it, do I? Because there's nobody there. You don't exist. Why should I comment on something that's posted by someone who thinks he or she doesn't exist? If you're not real, if you're not there, if there's no self that's choosing, why should I even have a reaction to it? I mean, it's like talking to AI as if it was a real person. It's just nonsensical, right? But there is someone who can choose. And as I've explained in other videos, we have two states of consciousness we can be in. We can see ourselves as separate beings, and we do that because we created a separate self. We can also see ourselves as connected beings because behind the separate self there is a real self. But that real self, which I call the conscious you, has the ability to choose because it has self-awareness. If you're really saying there is no one here, you should not be aware. You should not be conscious. So the person says, who is it that can choose? It is just happening. This is clear experientially when the illusion of self fully drops. No, it isn't. I understand what I just said. We can have a separate self, and that's the self that thinks it understands how the world works, knows how the world works, and create a mental image about how the world should function. It's always projecting that. And that illusion can drop away because, as I said, the core of your being is the conscious you, which has created the outer self but hasn't become it. So it can also step outside mentally, step outside of that separate self, and it can experience itself as pure awareness or neutral awareness. And when you first have that experience, it can feel like there is no self there. And that's what has given rise to all this philosophy that you really don't exist. There really is no self that's real. What I'm saying is when you have more of these experiences, you realize you are real and you are connected to your higher self in the spiritual realm. And that is also real. So what I'm saying here is simple. If there is something in you that can experience there's no one here, things are just happening, and which can then say this, you're not correct that there's no self. Because if there really is no self, if there really is no one here, there cannot be an experience. You are not experiencing the world. If you were not there, you could not have watched my video, and you could not have posted a comment. By the very fact that you're conscious, there is someone there. It may not be a separate self, but there is some self there that has self-awareness, and as a result of having self-awareness, you have the ability to choose. What are you going to do with that self-awareness? What are you going to do with the physical body you are inhabiting on this planet called Earth? If you say things are just happening, you're just denying all personal responsibility. And that's not really a healthy state of mind to be in. It can lead to all kinds of self-destructive behavior. And it can lead to you being put in jail or in a mental institution. So what I'm saying is that experientially, you cannot, and I've said this before, you cannot experience no self. You cannot. Because in order to have an experience, you must be conscious, and there has to be something that's conscious. As I have said before, behind our body, behind our emotions, behind our thoughts, behind our sense of identity, there is like a point from which you are experiencing the world. If we take it visually, you can say, I'm looking at the world through my eyes, but behind my eyes, even beyond the physical, there is some self that is focused in this point and looking at the world from this point. If you were sitting across from me, you have a self that's looking at me from your vantage point. We can't switch. I can't see the world the way you see it. You can't see the world I see it, because we have an individual sense of self. As long as we are conscious, we can't escape that. Therefore, you cannot experience that you have no self. You cannot experience that you are pure awareness. There is always a you that's experiencing. And denying that, it's just not experiential to deny this. It's a mental construct in the mind.